Content warning. This episode includes grief and disclosure during a funeral. If you are feeling fragile right now, consider pausing, getting someone you trust nearby, or checking the episode notes for support resources. Okay, let me take you to a small, crowded room, late at night, where the air smelled like lilies and regret. It was the week of my father's funeral. I was 31. The house was full of relatives who had known me as the good son, and inside me, something had been breaking for years. I had a decision to make that felt like choosing the future or erasing it. This is the story of that night, how grief made truth unavoidable, what happened when I spoke, and how we began to rebuild after the fallout.
Welcome back to SNJ Pride. I'm Samnang, storyteller. And yeah, still processing some things even after 11 years with the man who taught me what patience looks like.
And I'm James. If you're a gay man who has sat with a secret in the middle of loss, or you're thinking about telling the truth when everything else feels fragile, you're not alone. We're talking tonight about grief, honesty, timing, and safety. We'll be honest, this isn't a how-to checklist for every situation. It's one lived story, and we hope pieces of it help you plan if you're in the same storm.
Here's the roadmap. I'll tell the story, what led up to the funeral, the moment I decided to speak, and the immediate fallout. Then James will give his view of supporting someone making that choice, what he wished he'd said, and how we navigated the family chaos. We'll end with practical takeaways, 5 of them, and a direct talk to anyone listening and carrying a secret in grief. Sound okay?
So, scene setting. It was one of those sudden winter funerals where you don't have time to think. Flights, relatives, people who say the wrong thing out of habit. The house smelled like coffee and cheap perfume. My phone buzzed with messages, condolences, offers to help, and a few notes from cousins who'd known me all my life. The truth is, I had been living 2 lives for a long time. At work and in public, I existed as the son who brought honor. At night, I folded into a different self, the one who loved men. I'd rehearsed explanations, practiced small lies, convinced myself the silence kept everyone safe. But grief makes things strange. Death has a way of collapsing time. Suddenly, past and future are in the same room.
The low moments came fast. A cousin asked me to give a reading at the memorial. Another relative cornered me and asked whether I would carry on the family name. They wanted certainty. I felt like a fraud. And in the middle of it, alone for a second in the kitchen, I read a message from James. Call me when you can. I knew, with a kind of clarity that aches to remember, that if I didn't say something soon, I would live with a lie my whole life. Or worse, I'd let my father's death become the excuse that kept me hidden forever. I almost gave up. Honestly, I did. But grief was also an alarm clock. It forced me to choose. That's when I knew I couldn't carry both worlds anymore.
I can hear the weight of that moment in your voice now. When you texted me that night, I felt something shift. I remember sitting at our kitchen table and thinking, this is bigger than us, but I have to be the steady place for him. I called and you answered like you were underwater, quiet, uneven. You said, I might tell them tonight. I didn't try to talk you out of it. I asked, do you feel safe? What do you need me to do? That was my whole plan. Hold a space, not fix the outcome. We've been there before, where trying to fix only made things worse.
That simple question, do you feel safe, was the hinge. I had to answer honestly. I had some protections. We'd parked my car in a different spot. James was on standby. And my closest cousin who knew a little, he promised to be neutral. But I also had big risks. My mother had strong beliefs, an uncle who was loud and unforgiving, and older relatives whose reactions could mean being cut off. Here's the truth of it. Fear didn't go away. I was terrified, but grief had already pulled the curtain. I decided to speak because I didn't want a life that honored my father only by hiding who I was. I wanted truth, even if truth brought fallout.
The moment came after the viewing. People clustered in the living room. I remember the light hitting the old photographs on the wall. My father at 20, at 40, smiling in an old army uniform. My mother sat by the window, hands folded. I walked over, and my voice shook. I said, "There's something I need to say about who I am." Heads turned. You know the silence that comes when someone uses those words. It felt like being under glass. I took a breath and said, "I'm gay. I'm with James. He's my husband." It left the air different, sharp, then heavy. Some people breathed out with relief. Others froze like I had slapped them awake.
Hearing you tell me that later, your voice saying he's my husband, I felt both terrified and proud. I wasn't there physically when you said it, but I was there in the way you told me after. I wished I'd been at your side when heads turned, but I also knew something important. You chose the timing, and my job was to show up after. The hard part for me was watching you get responses that cut, some quiet withdrawal, some immediate anger, and not stepping in and making it about me. I learned then that supporting someone doesn't mean swooping in and saving them. It means being steady, listening, and offering concrete help when asked.
What followed was messy. My uncle accused me loudly of bringing shame. An older cousin refused to look at me. And my mother wept. But it wasn't grief in the way we had expected. It was confusion and fear. At some point, I wanted to run from the house and hide. For telling the truth about who I am, that line landed like a bruise. For a moment, I wondered if I had been cruel, choosing myself when everyone else was grieving. My head spun with the what-ifs. What if I had waited? What if I'd kept silent and kept peace? I felt alone in a crowd. I was a mess.
I want to say this clearly. I was angry for you, but I stayed focused on what you needed. Later, when we spoke, I listened more than I lectured. You needed to be heard, to have your feelings validated. I remember telling you, I hear you. That took courage. And then we made a plan, small steps. Leave the house together that night if you wanted, sleep somewhere safe, and give your mom space to process without disappearing entirely. That balance between protecting and respecting someone's family space is delicate. From where I sit now, what I learned is that planning never guarantees safety, but it gives you options, and options matter.
We left the house late. James drove us to a cheap motel, and we held each other in the dim. I remember saying, I wish someone had told me how to do this, how to find the words that didn't sound like an attack. And James said, you found the words you needed to find. You told the truth. We'll figure the rest out together. That's the beautiful part. He didn't fix the broken pieces, but he sat with them and with me. Even now, 11 years later, that choice still sits with us as a turning point. We learned that honesty can fracture things, and it can also be the first step to building a life that isn't brittle from secrets.
Later, when we started to do the work, calls to relatives, setting boundaries, and sometimes leaving conversations early, I learned a few things about supporting someone through family fallout. First, ask before you intervene. Don't assume you'll be the hero. Second, when you do step in, lend concrete help. Drivers, text of support, food, or a place to stay. And third, let them lead their own story. We can hold space and be tactical without taking away their agency. That's what helped us repair, not because the family suddenly agreed, but because we built our own safety and trusted relationships that mattered.
Okay, here's the part I promised. 5 clear, actionable takeaways if you're considering disclosure in a crisis or grief moment. Number 1, safety first, emotionally, physically, and financially. That means checking whether you have a place to go, who will support you, and whether telling could remove essential support. Don't assume courage is the same as safety. Number 2, ask for consent from the people who will be affected. Your partner, anyone you're close to. You and your partner should agree on a plan. A simple question like, "Are you able to be there for this, and how can I keep you safe?" gives both permission and boundaries.
Number 3, prepare simple, clear phrases for the moment. You don't have to give a long speech. Try, "I need to tell you something about my life. I'm gay, and I'm with James. I wanted you to hear it from me." Short, direct, centered on truth. You can follow with, "I know this may be a lot. I'm willing to answer questions later." That gives people time to process without making you responsible for their immediate feelings.
Number 4, control what you can. Set boundaries. You can say, "I won't discuss this right now if people are disrespectful," or "If this conversation becomes unsafe, we will stop." Protecting your emotional health after disclosure is not a betrayal of honesty. It's self-care.
Number 5, rebuilding is slow. Expect confusion, anger, and maybe distance, but also expect small, steady moments of connection. A cousin calling back with a quiet question, or a sibling sending a message months later. These are seeds. Celebrate small steps. What I know now is that truth can cost you people, and it can also cost you the safety of secrets. Both are losses in different ways. You deserve to choose the loss that keeps your soul intact.
If you're listening and you're in that urgent crossroads, here's a quick heart-to-heart. I hear you. That took courage to even think about. You're not the only one wrestling with timing. If you can delay and plan, do it. If you can't, lean on someone who will hold space without breaking. And if you're the partner of someone thinking about telling their family, be patient, ask how to help, and trust their timing, unless there's a clear safety issue. We learned that the hard way, and we keep learning.
If you're sitting in grief and also carrying a secret, this is for you. Your feelings are valid. The urge to be honest is not a betrayal of the person you've lost. It can be a way to honor your life. But please, don't treat my story as a template. Safety matters. Consent matters. If you are scared for your safety, financially, physically, or emotionally, plan first. Find a friend, a shelter, or a community resource. You're not alone and feeling torn. You are not broken. You deserve real love and real safety.
We are not therapists. If this episode pulls up big feelings, please consider reaching out to a mental health professional, a crisis line, or a trusted LGBTQ+ support organization in your area. If you're triggered by grief or trauma, talk to someone trained to help. There are links in the episode notes to hotlines and community resources. We say this because care matters. Your life matters.
If this story landed with you, if any part of it feels like something you know, would you do us a small favor? Share this episode or post a short reflection on social with the tag @SNJPride. Or if you're not ready to write, just comment "I hear you" in the episode thread so we know you're here. Those little pulses of connection matter to us and to everyone listening.
And if you're able, tell us what part hit you the most. Safety planning, the words we used, or the fallout. We read your notes, and sometimes they shape whole future episodes. We're building a community where people can find clues for their own courage and support when things get messy.
Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for letting us share a hard, messy chapter. If you left today feeling seen for one small thing, hold on to that. You're not alone. We see you. We hear you. We believe you deserve love and safety.
We're Samnang and James, and this is S&J Pride. Subscribe, share, and if you can, drop "I hear you" in the comments so we know this story found you. We'll see you next time.